China's social credit system has often been compared to that of a Black Mirror episode, or even akin to George Orwell's 1984, in which a large authoritarian government stops at nothing to micromanage its citizens through crushing dissent via its use of surveillance and governmental programs. As such, it seems like a natural comparison, with China utilizing a system which reaffirms its governmental policies to correspond to an arbitrary score to rank its citizens accordingly for the CCP. That score determines many things about your life in China, and many factors can either increase or decrease your social score. Recycling, volunteering, and giving blood are all great options to increase your social score. And with a higher social score, your status in society increases. Rewards programs, the ability to travel, favorable housing, and educational opportunities. In China, it pays to be viewed favorably by the government. Conversely, those who had a low social score find themselves among the lower rungs of society, increasingly ostracized and unable to escape their dismal score. Littering, jaywalking, excessive spending, and crimes in general correspond with a decrease in social credit. China is able to conceive such a program, jail critics and dissenters, not through the consent of its people, but rather as a result of its efforts to create a modern-day police state. That is because China is among one of the most surveillance countries on Earth, and essentially every action as a citizen could potentially be monitored by the government. Coinciding with the rise of technology, the opportunity to do as the NSA could only dream of doing has arisen for China's government. And fortunately for the CCP, rampant government overreach and intolerance of dissent has cemented their rule and created a space which is primed for programs like their social credit system. Those who find themselves the most at odds with the government, those who may be journalists, outspoken critics of the CCP, criminals, and ethnic minorities, both titles seemingly the same in the eyes of the CCP, may find themselves a part of the dreaded blacklist, much as if they never existed. According to Human Rights Watch, such restrictions have affected some 7 million Chinese, and many such people on the blacklist are thought to be, among other things, critics and enemies of the Chinese state. Chinese lawyer Li Xiaolin found himself subject to an apparent blacklist, a label for untrustworthy individuals under the system, as a Chinese court found an apology from Mr. Li in an ongoing court case to be insincere. As Mr. Li would find out, being blacklisted has dramatic repercussions in Chinese society, and upon attempting to purchase a domestic plane ticket in China, his order seemingly wouldn't process. That is, because the courts had deemed Mr. Li to be untrustworthy, and as such, they wouldn't even allow him to travel inside of China. For the CCP, this label of being untrustworthy is a means to crush political dissent and suppress those who act estranged from traditional Chinese values and customs. It also acts to guide Chinese society, an echo to the cultural reforms Mao Zedong once strived for. In many regards, China's social credit system is a means to guide China as envisioned by Xi Jinping, and in recent years, the success of the program has been evident in its expansion from regional pilots to nationwide implementation. China's first foray into a social credit system dates back to 2009. The CCP has since expanded China's social credit system from small regional trials to nationwide implementation overseen by 8 firms closely connected to China's Communist Party. Chinese giants like Alibaba and Tencent, as well as their subsidiaries, have begun to utilize vast amounts of data given to them by the Chinese people and the Chinese government to create profiles for their citizens. But although from a Western perspective we may look at China's social credit system with distrust, and for good reason, many in China have decidedly different opinions on it. In fact, most Chinese reportedly support the governmental reforms of the credit system, and have readily embraced a system which allows everyday people to see the credit scores of whoever they want, whenever they want. This is because China, a country which has a long history of turmoil, still reels from the reforms of Mao Zedong and his Cultural Revolution, in which millions would die as Mao sought to reform and remake Chinese society. In doing so, Mao would create a culture of pessimism and a sense of distrust for years to come. Think about it this way. 50 years ago in China, you could be jailed, relocated, and even killed for no reason. The cultural impact of this still resonates within Chinese society today, and many in China look towards a system in which they can attest to their own progress in society, and a system which allows them to view others less in line with the state. As such, China's credit system has even been deemed by one journalist the most ambitious project in social engineering since the Cultural Revolution, and that claim is not without good reasoning. Like Mao sought to cement his rule under that of a red book, Xi intends to do the same under the guise of a loyalty program. Despite its reported success from the government, one simply can't look at the Chinese social credit system without acknowledging what it truly is: an authoritarian government seeking to expand its reach and influence on its people through utilizing vast amounts of data and extremely questionable practices. While the Han majority may reportedly embrace the system, it's not like disapproval of the system would reflect very well for its recipients. and one only has to look west of the Uyghurs to see the CCP's main goal. In fact, some of the most blatant uses of authoritarianism and Patriot Act-style monitoring is being utilized by the Chinese in the province of Xinjiang, in which millions of ethnic Uyghurs are being targeted under China's mass surveillance program, a program which goes hand in hand with the CCP's social credit system. I plan on making a video on the Uyghurs' situation at some point in the future, but in short, the Uyghurs are a Turkic-based ethnic group in eastern China which practice Islam and share little cultural similarity to China's more predominant ethnic groups. Knowing this, China has sought to reform the culture and education of the Uyghurs through means of suppression, and this is where China's social credit system comes into play. Through facial recognition, monitoring of social media presence, and even religious practices, Uyghur leaders and everyday people alike are blacklisted and sent to re-education camps. Now, this is just one example of the rampant government abuses across the country. In China today, the government has increasingly clamped down on dissent through its enhanced social credit system, and it doesn't look like the universal right of freedom of speech will be tolerated. Rather, the CCP intends to create a society devoid of dissent, replaced with Chinese jingoism, bolstered by the scores of an arbitrary credit system which reaffirms the values of the party. For China, a system which openly ranks and rewards the loyalty of its citizens is an opportunity to bolster nationalism, an opportunity to encourage good behavior, and an opportunity to guide the country as the Communist Party sees fit. China's social credit system not only infringes on the basic rights afforded to all of humanity, but sets a dangerous precedent going forward. As the saying goes, as one leads, others are sure to follow. This is Outlook. Thanks for watching.